Ladies and gentlemen, Shannon Isom.
Is it a good afternoon? Yes. I'm very excited to be here today. I have a story to tell you, and it's kind of personal. I am married to a victim of domestic violence. My husband's mother was killed by his stepfather. Her only child, he was just 15 years old, and she was 35. She will be 35 for perpetuity. Now, older than she, years gone by, we still feel the effects of her death. As with any child who is a witness, or in my husband's case, a living byproduct of what happens in the home, it is difficult for us, the others, to imagine the years of added effects that it has on a child who loses their mother. But you see, this happens daily. There are 3 women that are killed each and every day by the perpetrator's hands of domestic violence. There are 24 women that are victimized every single minute. And yet, our children are these afterthoughts within these conversations. So it made me wonder, why do we not define our children as victims? Their voices are silent, much like the voices in our community regarding this issue. As an administrator of a nonprofit that has been diligently focused on women's health for well over a century, let me just tell you that domestic violence is nothing new. We have been dealing with domestic violence for a long time, and in fact, tonight within our community, we will serve well over 100 victims, and we do that every night across multiple sites. Half of those victims are our children, and it is these children that are given very little attention in the social causes and in the philanthropic purview. They are not within our focus because we are consumed by the men and the women, and rightfully so, who perpetrate, who are victimized. We frame our pictures around the dynamics of the male and female and or intimate partner relationship. And so the kids then are blurred between these very distinct, defined lines. So I ask that you look beyond those lines and you see children there that grow into adulthood, that have families, that are part of our communities. Part of the reason why I believe children get lost in the conversation is simply just the way that we think, that we define, that we believe that domestic violence is. I mean, we all know it's a behavior choice, right? I mean, these women, these mothers ultimately reap what they sow. That's why we always are asking, well, why did she stay? There may be a few of us who have a little higher cognitive learning, and we'll say, oh my gosh, these are just products of communities of poverty. I mean, these communities are fraught with too little jobs, too little money, not enough resources, a lot of kids, but certainly the inability to make good decisions and therefore pick good relationships. Or there may be a few of us in the audience who says, this is a lifestyle choice. These people's lives, they're disorganized and unplanned. They are in disarray. It is chaos and confusion. It is no wonder why you see this very reactive behavior. But I do suspect that there's a few of us in the room very silently saying that domestic violence, its rates, its prevalence falls along racial lines, and well, I'm not part of that race, so. Yet, I want to tell you that it all colors our vision to organize the information, the confounding and the conflating issues around domestic violence, that it ultimately also does not allow us to see that this pathology is victimizing our very hope. Our judging brain organizes information very quickly and effectively, and that's really a good thing. And in doing what it does best, we must protect ourselves from its traps, the false negatives that we can conclude so easily, that we move experiences through our litmus test, and God, sometimes it could steer us wrong. I mean, this is an age-old problem. Yet, we continue to judge based on these preconceived boxes that we have, and then we're spoon-fed these salacious stories, event after event, while we sit there more and more, not understanding that it is contributing to our own passivity. I have often felt the palpable pain that he girds in losing a mother at such a young age. I mean, it is tragic. It is unthinkable, and probably for many of us, it is unimaginable. But to lose a mother to the senseless act of domestic violence and then having to navigate that as a child, it just takes my breath away. And then I ache for him and my children and my family because I feel her loss, I feel our loss, and I know, I'm keenly aware that this loss then reverberates from generation to generation. And although I did not know her, I never met her, I mourn her. Because I feel our lack in our family because she's simply not there. So we fill in those pieces, and it sensitizes me to the children that we take care of each and every night. There are 40 plus children in my domestic violence shelter. These silent voices. They are future men, there are future women, but they sleep tonight as children in a shelter, shielded from the violence within their homes, but one day they will be like my husband, good people, good friends, exemplary citizens, good co-workers. I mean, good people. So I do purport that we do think about domestic violence wrong. That in our emotional responses that we haven't even noticed that there is not one consistent voice that is responding with a plan. Not with outrage, not with anger, not with scorn, not even with a justifiable diatribe, but a plan, a strategy, a solution on when this type of violence is going to end, and more importantly, when is it going to be unacceptable for our children, for our women. We haven't even noticed that there's little to no research, which then means there's little to no medical prevention, that there's little to no medical intervention in our legal system. We're talking about spotty, punitive consequences at best. And where is our public health authority? Where is our focus? Where's the funding? Because with all of this lack, what it really means is that we have no call to action. What do we do? How do we intervene with this issue? Our community has to know what are the causes. Why is it pervasive across every community and insidious in some? That our vociferous demands that we have for the NFL should be replaced with the CDC, the NIH, our public health departments. The label of domestic violence victim is hard to wear. Victim isn't even in my husband's lexicon. I mean, it conjures up for him, as it probably does for us, images that are not aligned with strength or purpose or control, all of which he is. But as he self-identified, he then defined for me the narrowness of this domestic violence framework. This is a community issue. We are all stewards in this human rights space, because whether you know it or not, you have met. You are friends, you are co-workers, or maybe even, like me, married to the generational effects of domestic violence. I mean, the numbers are there. After my husband's mother was killed, he lived in over 5 different homes. Focused on being educated, focused on not being a part of anyone's system. He credits his survival, his thriving, and even his success on his mother's legacy, but more importantly, on the friends and the families who stood in understanding, the people who stood in understanding. And so that's what I ask of you today, that you stand in understanding and not judgment, and that if any of you do not have the ability to not judge the woman who's decided to stay or even the one that's decided to leave, what I ask that you switch gears and stand in the understanding of the child that has to grow up with the effects of this type of victimization. And now that you are aware, then I ask that you also be available and be engaged. And if you're built anything like me, you just can also be outraged. But collectively, let's be giving. And what we then will see is that our silent victims will ultimately bear our hope. Thank you.